got my hat, I've got my buckler. Now where did I put that rapier?
Welcome to Nerdarchy, a place for news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, as well as other role-playing games.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell.
So, alright, today we're going to build the ultimate Duelist. So, we had a request to do this one, I believe. I forget exactly where this one came in from.
Sorry, guys, we get a lot of requests.
Yeah, so either... so we're going to make another Adventurers League legal 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons character build. This time we're going to focus on dueling. And I think we broke it down. There's like 2 character classes, in all of 5th edition D&D that basically you're going to go with one of them.
Well, realistically, fighter and rogue are the ones that jump out to me as far as things that are going to get into combat and mix it up melee with that, panache, that style.
And kind of that idea that they're going to duel someone in single combat. Now, I guess you could probably maybe do something with a Paladin. It would be a really kind of off-the-wall build. I believe Oath of the Crown basically has some abilities, and there's also the spell Compel Duel.
Yeah.
That kind of scream that a little bit. But it isn't really kind of like the Duelist that we're thinking of. I think we're thinking like D'Artagnan and the Three Musketeers kind of.
You could go with Bard going, College of Valor. But I think most of those abilities, really going to stem and flow outside of that one-on-one combat abilities. They got the panache, they got the style, but they don't have the mechanics to back it up.
Yeah, for like the Bard of Valor, like they have the lifestyle elements down pat, but when it actually comes to mixing it up, they're going to be subpar without using spells, and that kind of defeats the purpose, I think.
Right.
So for that, we were definitely looking at a dex-based build because obviously, our Swashbuckler is going to be, kind of nimble and agile on his feet. They're not going to want to be weighed down with heavy armor. And, it's just not as romantic to, wearing full plate all the time. You have to be ready to go woo the ladies or the gentlemen, as the case may be, or defend their honor.
Absolutely.
At the drop of a hat.
All right, so if we're looking at fighter and rogue, what kind of subclasses are we leaning towards?
You have the champion, and the battle master right out of the Players Handbook. And I guess we should address the fact that since this is Adventurers League legal, we're only going to be able to use one other source other than this Players Handbook. We also have a bunch of different ones in the Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Now, I skipped Eldritch Knight because that doesn't feel to me like the Duelist per se.
I would agree.
But in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, we have a couple more choices. We have the Samurai, the Arcane Archer, the Cavalier, and many of them just don't really work.
The Arcane Archer, thematically, it's just not there. And if you look at Samurai and Cavalier, again, this harkens back to the concept of, lots of big, bulky armor. I mean, that's what it speaks to me anyway.
Yeah, especially the Cavalier. I mean, that is your consummate, mounted knight on upon a horse. So,
all right. So then, what are we looking at as far as rogue?
So rogue, you have a lot of options, right? The one I would throw away right away is probably Arcane Trickster. That doesn't, fit the vibe for what we're going for here.
I would agree.
You have the Mastermind. You have Swashbuckler. That one, I'm kind of leaning towards. We have an Assassin. We have the Thief. So a lot of them will actually work, but I think we have some things in mind when we went into this, and also too, I think you were also doing a little bit of a D&D eyes. It's kind of a little bit of homage to R.A. Salvatore. If you guys, read R.A. and actually, read his stuff that isn't Forgotten Realms, he has a character that when you check out the character sheet in the description below from D&D Beyond, you'll be able to see, kind of the homage there if you're familiar with it. If not, you should definitely look up the Crimson Shadow. But, speaking of the description, at this point, it's only fair that we call out the sponsor, D&D Beyond, who makes it so much easier for us to put those links in the description so you can go and look at the character sheet as well as the character build guide, which is going to be a pay-what-you-want product over on the DM's Guild.
Absolutely. So, thank you to D&D Beyond.
So, I know we've been doing a lot of talking here, but we haven't really said a whole lot yet. So, we mentioned some this and some that's, but let's start narrowing things down. What do you want to start with? The background, the character class, or the race?
Well, I mean, typically we try to, narrow this down by the way that, the Player's Handbook suggests, and that's to start off with your race.
Okay.
So if we're looking at, race statistics, we know we are building a dex-based character, and we're also looking for someone who has that panache. So a bonus to charisma, while it's not going to necessarily affect the combat portion of this, it's going to fit the theme of the character. So we were really looking at dex and charisma as a big plus.
Yeah, whenever we can sneak in a little bit of role-playing and story in with the mechanics, I think it really... it really drives home what we like about the game is mixing and melding both of those components of it.
So based on that, my first go-to that I wanted to do was going to be the Tabaxi. Make a little homage to maybe a Puss in Boots type character. Could have a lot of fun with it, but because of the options that are in Xanathar's Guide that we really want to use, it was Xanathar's Guide, Volos, Xanathar's Guide, Volos. So we wound up tossing out the Tabaxi and went with the more Xanathar's Guide stuff.
Well, I do have a little bit of an alternate for you. If you were doing this in Ebron, you would actually be able to use Xanathar's Guide as well as the Wayfinder's Guide, as well as the Player's Handbook, and a couple other things. So what that would allow you to do is choose Shifter, and the Swift Stride Shifter would give you, that's a mouthful, folks, would give you the bonuses you want, and it's also a cat-like creature. So that would be a way to go, but I think we went in a different direction, because again, we want to do that homage to the Crimson Shadow.
Absolutely. So obviously with everything that we do with character builds, half-elf and humans are always good go-tos, just because of those floating bonuses. Half-elf gets the charisma to go along with it, so works out really well. But we do those things all the time. So we wanted to go in a completely different direction, as Dave has already mentioned with the Crimson Shadow stuff. So we have elf, we have forest gnome, we have halfling. These have bonuses that we can use that are going to go in the direction we want.
Right. So if you're familiar with that story, you know that the swashbuckler that we're probably trying to emulate is Oliver de Burrows. And, he's a halfling, a highway halfling.
Yes, he is the highway halfling in the Crimson Shadow. Really awesome character. And, as Dave says, we're looking to kind of homage him up. And, since we know that Lightfoot halflings get the dex and charisma, it winds up working. And come on, how often do we do a halfling character build? So we're going with it.
And plus, our duelist is probably going to fight with a rapier. Rapier is like a super weapon in 5e D&D, especially if you're small. It doesn't die 8. It's a finesse weapon, and it doesn't have the heavy property, so it's a really good get. And Oliver de Burrows fought with a rapier anyway.
That is entirely true.
So as you said, we're going to go with the Lightfoot halfling. So now we're going to move along and move into our character classes. What are we looking at here to start?
Well,
anyway?
I mean, as much as it sometimes, really stinks to be like, oh, let's look at mechanics. If you're looking at fighter and rogue, and you're not looking to go heavy armor, rogue is the superior choice to go first.
Yeah, you're going to lose out on that heavy armor, but we're not wearing it anyway, so who cares?
Exactly.
So we're going to go rogue, and before we say where we're going to go from rogue, maybe we should jump to background, and then we'll kind of like go through the stats and then the level progression.
That's a great idea. Background, we went with Charlatan. As a nice homage to the character, being able to, kind of try to get one over on people, as the highway halfling does in the novels. We felt it was a really good mixing up that roguish fighting style and, that charismatic background. It really works out well. You get Deception, you get Sleight of Hand, which are going to work for this type of character. And then, of course, you're going to get Disguise Kit and Forgery Kit. And if you're going to be this kind of thing, it's awesome.
Yeah, as far as backgrounds go, I feel like Charlatan has one of the best packages when you're talking about your skills and your tools that you might actually use in the game. So this is going to come in handy. You'll be able to make up credentials. You can masquerade as a noble or whoever you need to be, or maybe you're moonlighting as a highway halfling, as the case may be.
Well, I mean, and you mentioned noble, and that was one of the things that we honestly had considered, that this character should either be a noble or be able to pretend they're a noble.
So we went with pretending, of course. All right, so from there, let's go with our stats and what we're going to start with. We're going to use the standard array, I believe.
Absolutely. So what do you think was a good split for us?
All right, so we're not going to need strength. We're going dex heavy, so we're going to dump our strength. That's going to be our 8. We're a halfling with a +2 to dex, so we're probably going to want to put that 14 into dex. We said that charisma was important to us too.
Absolutely, but we're also going to be a very melee-based character, so what's the higher focus? Do we want to put the 15 in con and be able to work it up later, or do we want to put that 15 in charisma and be as charismatic as we are dexterous?
So I think what we ended up doing is 15 con and 13 charisma, and that actually gives us the same modifier to start anyway.
Absolutely.
From there, we went with our next highest stat being intelligence, because we see this guy as being kind of, or girl, as being kind of witty.
Absolutely. And, you know, a 10 wisdom winds up not being, you know, a problem. And you know what? Let's face it, if you're going to be this kind of character, you might not always be making the best choices. You're willing to gamble with your life a little bit.
I would almost say, like, it's a toss-up between dumping strength and dumping wisdom at this point, because I feel like these characters are going to live those kind of lives that lead them to making poor decisions.
All right, so that gives us a good solid stat set. Strength being utterly useless to us because we don't need the armor. You know, we're not getting in any of that nonsense. So we get into our actual rogue abilities. We're looking at athletics and acrobatics. It's a very physical character, so we felt those were absolutely important to take. And then we're also going to go with performance and intimidation. Especially for a highway halfling, you want to be able to sell yourself up a little bit. So having intimidation is totally going to work with this. And we're actually going to take the expertise in intimidation and athletics to kind of counterbalance that low strength score.
Yeah, he's going to need a little practicing getting the big folk to respect him.
Absolutely.
So for our second level, we decide to leave Rogue and go into the fighter realm. So this way we can get our fighting style, which is going to be the Duelist style.
Absolutely. Makes total sense for this type of thing. Being able to get right to the fighting style, get those bumpy fighter hit points is really nice. And we're going to keep going with fighter, so our third level we're going to wind up taking so we can get that action surge.
Yeah, action surge is literally the best ability in the game, so there is no reason why you wouldn't want to bum rush that. But I think from there we're going to jump back to Rogue.
You know, being able to get the cunning action, incredibly helpful. And then if we go rogue for the next level, now we're going to be able to dip in and finally get our archetype. And what was that going to be?
Well, I think we kind of alluded to it in the beginning, and that's Swashbuckler, because, I mean, come on, we're building a duelist. We're kind of like billing him like a swashbuckler the whole time anyway. It's right in the name. Where else are we going to go?
I mean, come on, rakish audacity, fancy footwork. I mean, it really fits. And of course, you can't ignore that charisma bonus to your initiative. Really awesome.
So we're going to take that fourth level now, and we're going to take it in Rogue, so we can get that feat or stat adjustment as we choose. But this time we actually decided to go with the feat.
And the feat really is one that allows you to have those tricks in combat. We went with Martial Adept, and we chose Disarming Attack and Riposte or Repousse, however you want to pronounce that. This is going to allow you to really be able to get those extra attacks. And if I attack you on your turn, I can get another sneak attack.
Yes, it does make it a little bit more potent. I mean, granted, we don't get a ton of superiority dice to use, but it is going to give us more in our repertoire.
Absolutely.
From here, we're now going to jump back to fighter because we want to get our fighter archetype. And you might be a little surprised at what direction we decided to go with.
So where did we go, Dave?
We decided to take the samurai archetype. So I know it's not the typical swashbuckler that you're thinking of, but in this case, we just wanted the skill sets. We wanted the abilities that the samurai gets. They make great duelists. So we are trying to build the ultimate duelist. maybe he doesn't. He was not going to be calling himself a samurai.
You know, we were honestly leaning towards Battlemaster for a while, and you might have saw that coming, you know, with taking Martial Adept. But there was some discussion off camera, and Samurai's abilities are really cool. We wound up taking the Persuasion skill, which, since we're already going with a decent Charisma score, this is going to really allow us to have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah, so it's nice to get that extra skill in there. And then we're going to continue with Fighter for our 4th level in Fighter, which is going to, again, stat bump, or we can take a feat. In this case, we're going to do a feat again.
So here we're going to wind up taking Resilient, being able to give us that, you know, proficiency in con saves, and that +1 to con winds up working out really well for this particular character. We've got a high dex, we've got a high constitution, and now we're proficient in both of them, so pretty nice.
Again, Fighter, why? Extra attack.
Yeah, it takes a little bit longer for us to get there than the average, you know, single class character, but you're going to need it if you're going to, you know, really be trying to mix it up.
Where do you think we're going next, Ted?
Well, we've already got, you know, the fighter levels, and we get another stat bump or a feat if we take another level in fighter, so why don't we go there?
Perfect. And in this case, we want to get that dex up as fast as we can because it's going to increase our initiative, our armor class, enter to hit bonus, enter to damage bonus. We're really heavily vested in dexterity, so we're just going to take the stat bump and increase dex.
So that's going to give us an 18 in dex, which is going to be, you know, again, really useful. Dex is one of those super stats in 5th edition, so why not?
So now we're going to jump back to Rogue, and we're going to rock out 4 levels in Rogue and grab a bunch of goodies.
We're going to get a bunch of abilities. We're going to wind up with expertise in Persuasion and Deception. We're going to take another stat bump and max out our Dex to get a nice 20, which, you know, maxed out. Yeah, great.
And not only that, too, we're going to kind of double down on the fact that this guy is very agile and nimble and quick on his feet. Uncanny dodge, evasion. He's going to be hard to hit. He's going to be taking less damage. He's going to be in. He's going to be out. He's going to be everywhere.
You know, the problem he's going to have is, do I uncanny dodge or do I riposte?
Decisions. But fortunately, you only get so many superiority dice. So once he's out of them, it's going to be a no-brainer.
That's true.
So from here on out, we're going to rock Fighter all the way down. And we're going to grab some more awesome abilities that's going to really round out this character.
So if you want the full list of everything, you can check out that character builder guide and see where we went with, you know, the rest of these levels, stat adjustments, and the like. Ultimately, I think this is a really great character. A lot of fun to play. You get, you know, really good combat abilities. And let's face it, a charisma-based, you know, character that can get the serious amount of role playing in.
Yeah, he might be the get the short end of the stick on a lot of things, but it ain't going to be on dueling. How are some ways we might use this character as an NPC from behind the screen as the Dungeon Master?
Well, the really great thing about something like this, you really have a very versatile character that you can be able to put out there. You know, you could take him as being, you know, evil or neutral, and he's just trying to survive, and go with that Oliver de Burrows type thing. And he's a highway halfling. He's out there. He's leading a small band of people and, you know, attacking caravans or travelers, what have you. You know, the ladies are always, you know, wooing on, you know, this you know, noble halfling who you know, keeps robbing them. Utterly hysterical in its phrasing. But you could also have them being someone that's a quote-unquote fake noble running around court if you're having a totally urban game, and he's someone that the players keep interacting with, and maybe he's a foil or she's a foil. Maybe they're someone that's trying to gather intel on the party, and he's using all of these deception skills and forgery to be in the right places at the right time. But when he encounters them, he's utterly charming, utterly, you know, in their face, and they have no idea that he's, you know, trying to get this intel.
Well, I also kind of like the idea that you could use this type of NPC to humble your players if you have murder hobos, right? You know, they're bullying NPCs, and one of the NPCs maybe that they end up bullying is this character, this halfling, who challenges one of them to a duel. Maybe it's the barbarian, maybe it's the fighter. You know, and he just totally schools them in one-on-one combat. And it doesn't have to be lethal. You don't have to kill them. You know, you could do things like disarm them and you know, trip them and just kind of like humiliate them. Now, I wouldn't do this all the time.
Right.
But every once in a while, you know, you got to serve up a nice heaping dose of humble pie.
Absolutely. I'm always looking for, you know, things when players are going off the rails, players are, you know, doing things that really are against that heroic archetype. And to be able to bring somebody like this in, you could have a lot of fun with it.
You know, but even better is for the players to come upon an area, whether it's a village, a town, or even a tavern, where everyone is kind of like in terror of this individual. But they never say, they say his name. They just call him by name. And they never mention that he's a halfling, that he's this little guy, but just that, like, they just kind of describe him as being a bully, as a tormentor. And, you know, if you just you have to do this foreshadowing and this lead up with all these different NPCs kind of like saying what a badass this guy is, and he's ruthless, and he's mean, and he's a jerk, and he steals our women, our booze, our money, and, you know, he totally disrespects everyone. He has no respect for anything. And then he finally shows up, right? And to the utterings, like, you know, maybe the players in the back of the room or something, and they're like, they hear the whispering, oh, he's here, oh no.
They're looking around, expecting to see this, you know, huge, massive, you know, character, and they're like,
the crowd finally parts, and there he is, 3'3", you know, they're ready to, you know, terrorize the whole room.
I wouldn't even go with a name. I'd have, like, you know, he's got a title, like, you know, whatever it is. You know, oh, the South Road Terror, or, you know, whatever. You know, come up with something that's fitting to your world or for this character.
The Giant Blade of Dodash or something, you know. So it's something that just, like, totally makes it sound like the opposite of what it is. And then you just have this moment when this halfling with a floppy hat and rapier walks in. Almost like, you know, almost if you take the villain for Rob Roy and shrink him down.
Right.
And were to use that guy as, you know, kind of like as a stand-in or something to model off of.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So the question is, folks, how would you use this in your game? Let us know. We got a place where we can talk about it down in the comments below. While you're at it, feel free to like, share, and subscribe.
After you do that, feel free to check the description and check out those links to D&D Beyond and the Dungeon Masters Guild.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.